Hello and welcome to the channel everybody, I'm Jason Storm, and in this video I wanted to show you the camera I use for practically all my videos now, except for the ones when I'm in the sim or in front of the computer here, and not only show it to you, but why I think it's the best value for money kind of content creation camera out there. And how I've modified it to go from a really good content creation device to the ultimate content creation device on a budget. So back 5 years ago, when I started making YouTube videos, not necessarily on this channel, but on a previous one, everybody was saying the Canon T3i was the best value for money content creation kind of device for YouTube, and even some people for filmmaking. I bought that camera as my first camera for YouTube. I didn't like it. I quickly upgraded, but I don't want to spend too much time on that. Maybe I'll go into it in another video, but if this is your first time on this channel, then I don't do camera videos very often, but I quite often like when some of the YouTubers I watch do actually show a little bit behind the scenes and their workflow. I enjoy it, and maybe that's because I'm a content creator myself, but yeah, I thought I might just show you a little bit of the camera at least. Maybe in another video I'll show you a bit more behind the scenes, a bit more of my other cameras and how I actually film things and the process. But for this video, I want to show you the camera I use for nearly all my videos, and that is the Sony ZV1. This little Frankenstein here. It doesn't normally look like this when you buy it. I've modified it a bit. I think the Sony ZV1 is one of the best content created devices for YouTube when you're on a bit of a budget without spending thousands of dollars. Thousands upon thousands of dollars. I'm from Australia. In Australian dollars, these things retail for about $1,100. They're one of the cheaper cameras in the Sony lineup that can actually do video and all that. But quite often they do come on sale for under $1,000. I actually picked this one up near new used. I think he owned it for 2 weeks and then he sold it on Facebook Marketplace. It literally only had like 200 shutter counts or something like that. But it didn't look like this. This is a little modified. But I'll go into that in a second. As I said, I have had other cameras on this channel. Bigger cameras, more expensive cameras. In fact, I'm filming on one right now. The camera I'm filming on right now is actually a Sony full frame A7 II. I guess most people would class this as a professional, semi-professional kind of camera. A lot of YouTubers actually do use the A7s as their main camera. That is actually an older camera. That initially came out in November 2014. So it is an older camera, but this actually has more features than it. More! This does things like not only eye autofocus, but animal autofocus. Really good autofocus on this compared to my A7 or even my APS-C Sony bodies. I mean, the cameras that I did, like the one I'm filming on right now, back then Sony didn't have flip screens like this. So when, like right now for instance, I don't know if I'm in focus. I just have to trust that the A7 II is focusing on my face when I'm moving in and out, when I'm holding things up. I just have to trust that A7 II does its job. I never know. But that's the thing about this. Not only does it have a flippy screen, it's got a telly light here, so I know when it's recording. Again, a lot of the more expensive bodies don't have that. The A7 doesn't, the A63 doesn't. I don't know if I'm recording right now. Maybe I forgot to press the button. Maybe it hit its 30-minute timer and it stopped. I don't know. On this I do, because it's actually got a telly light. On recording limit, this is unlimited. Absolutely unlimited. To a certain degree. Until either, one, it overheats, which for me it has not done, or two, the battery runs out. Which, I mean, these are pretty small batteries. Look at the size of these batteries. They're pretty tiny, right? So, yeah, I found it's probably... I mostly film in HD, and you'll probably get up to about an hour when you're filming on that. But that is why I have modified it to have this over here. This little attachment here is something you can put Sony NPF batteries in. Look at that battery compared to that. So, when you attach this battery to the ZV1, not only it shows all the lights there, it's how charged the battery is, how much it's got left. It does have a D-tap out, and it also has USB-C and USB-A out on the back here. I have the USB-C going to my little light up here, the Ulanzi VL49 light that gives me a little bit of a face light. So that's always topped up with battery. And then the USB-A I'm running to the ZV1. So the ZV1 always has battery. That battery isn't going to run out anytime soon. And for audio, like the Sony ZV1 has a pretty good internal microphone on it. But for studio work like this, it's not 100% there. In saying that, some videos I have done recently, I have filmed on this camera, on this microphone, because I couldn't be bothered hooking up my lavalier mic. And that's just a lazy thing that I do sometimes. Because this is marketed by Sony as a vlogging camera. So it has to have a good internal microphone. And it does, like, compared to my A7 or A6300 or a lot of the other cameras out there that are actually more expensive as well, they actually don't have as good a microphone as this does. Okay, so this is a microphone test of the 3-capsule microphone on the Sony ZV1. How's it sound? Probably better than a normal one. Also, on top of that, a little bit of a test on how much reach this effective 24mm will give you while vlogging. At least while you're not using 4K and active stabilization, because active stabilization does crop in a little bit. Alright, so just before we were on standard stabilization, now we're on active stabilization. It does crop in a little bit, but still mostly usable, at least with my longer arms maybe. There's a few people that complain that it's not it's a little bit too much cropped in. For me, it's kind of fine, but if you've got small arms, maybe that's something to consider. Okay, so just for comparison, this is the internal microphone on the Sony A6300. Probably doesn't sound quite as good. Both the ZV1 and the A6300 are set to the same volume of 20 on the camera, and yeah, that should be pretty comparable. But when using the Rode Filmmaker lavalier kit, I personally prefer the lavs. Years ago I did used to film on shotgun mics, and a lot of YouTubers do. I just personally prefer the lavs, even though right now I'm on a shotgun, and that's simply because I had to show this to you. Otherwise I'd actually be using the lav. Do you need this fuzzy thing on right now? No. But I'm actually, even though this comes with a little fuzzy thing on top of the microphone, I'm actually not using the original one. I'm using a small rig one that has the little dead cat on top, but it also gives me another hot shoe that I can run my lav on top of, or my light, or my battery, or whatever I want to put on top of it. It gives me another hot shoe, even though I'm using the hot shoe that's already there. So that's beneficial to me. They're not expensive. You can pick them up pretty cheap. And obviously, to mount all of this onto, I've got a small rig cage here, which I'm not going to lie, with this amount of stuff hooked onto it, is it's a bit awkward to hold. But I mean, I'm not vlogging with this. Most of the time when I'm filming in studio, it's just sitting there on top of the tripod and just doing its thing, like a normal studio kind of camera. And that's why I think this is great, because as a studio camera, this also does 4K. This can do up to 1,000 frames per second for some ultra slow-mo if you wanted it to. My A7 II, for instance, only shoots 1080p up to 60 frames per second. And this little guy, 4K, can do up to 1,000, but obviously not in 4K. It doesn't do 1,000 FPS in 4K. But the capabilities are there if you needed to. To be honest, I don't even shoot in 4K. Most of my videos that you say, I only really shoot in HD. In fact, I don't think I've ever even uploaded a video to YouTube with this camera in 4K. I have done with previous cameras, but just not with this. Sometimes I do shoot in 1080, and then in post I upscale it to 4K to put out there on YouTube, but I don't actually shoot in 4K most of the time. But this camera does allow that if I wanted to. And also, with the purchase price of this, you don't need to buy a lens. It literally comes with what is effectively a 24-70 equivalent lens on a full frame, which is actually what I'm using right now on the A7. I'm using a 24-70. The lens on this is effectively the same for its tiny little sensor. And well, it's not tiny little sensor. It's bigger than a phone camera sensor. This runs a 1-inch sensor. A step up from 1 inch is micro 4/3, APS-C. Let's not worry about APS-H. And then full frame. Obviously, most people in the photography, videography kind of game, they use full frame, especially for anything professional. I personally, for the majority of my YouTube videos, I've actually used APS-C, but now that's kind of changed. For the last, I don't know, 6 months to a year-ish maybe, I've been filming on this, just a little 1-inch, and I mean, nobody would know any different. Whether it's full frame, whether it's 1 inch, literally no one would know. Unless I told you, which I have now. And this is my point. I don't think you need more than this to do online kind of videos like this. Obviously, if someone's paying you for a TV commercial, you're probably not going to film with this. They probably want a little bit better quality than that. In saying that, let me switch over to this and you'll see what is a reasonably good 1080p image on a full frame camera. What I might do, I might film in 4K with this just to show you how good this can be compared to what I can do on my A7. Right, so now we are on the Sony ZV1. Did you see much of a quality difference? Despite the fact this is a tiny little 1 inch sensor, and it's fine. Nobody would click onto my video and see the quality I'm producing right now and think, ew, that's disgusting. I'm not watching this. What was that filmed on? A tiny little 1 inch sensor. There's a few YouTubers and all that out there filming on like multiple $1,000 cine red cameras and all. This is all you really need. And the thing is, right, for the price you pay for a Sony ZV1, you also don't need to buy a lens. And I don't know if you know much about cameras, but lenses are expensive for most of them. Micro Four Thirds, not too bad for some of the Panasonics. But Sony full frame lenses, have you seen the price of Sony full frame lenses? I know I have. I think, particularly if you're starting out on YouTube, and I mean I'm not really just starting out on YouTube anymore, but I've kind of downgraded, I guess some would say, to the Sony ZV1. It just has everything. And not only can I use it as a studio setup kind of camera that has nearly infinite battery life, I've got a proper filmmaker lav on right now for good audio. Got a bit of a light going on there. It's in the cage. I can, with the cage as well, I can also still take out the battery and the SD card and all that, which is a bit of a difficult if you're not using the cage. The setup I have with my Sony ZV1 is not multiple thousands of dollars. Like, for the price I would have paid for all the cage, the filmmaker kit, the batteries and all that, still would come in less than some people are paying just for the body alone, no lenses, on some more expensive cameras. This one here, in A7 form, the only probably benefit, I guess you could say, to running the bigger A7 in this kind of format, especially if I was to open the blinds right now, especially being daytime, you're going to get a lot of light coming in. On the ZV1, it doesn't have as much dynamic range as this because this is a full frame sensor compared to a 1 inch. So it might blow out the background and you'll just be kind of white at the back there. Whereas this, it'll show the background a bit more, even if it's bright lit. And also the A7 has headphone jack monitoring. But you can. This also has really good minimum focusing distance, so I can hold things up to the camera and it will kind of focus on it. Whereas these, it depends on the lens. What's this focus to? But I think this minimum focusing distance is at least 30 centimeters on this lens. It's also big, it's also heavy, and with the ZV1, if you wanted to, you could also put it up as a webcam and use it as a webcam, and it still retains all of its focus capabilities, which is not the case with this, the, I guess you could say, mid-range kind of cameras here. Another cool little thing that this one does is it has background defocus in one button. Clear, defocus, clear, defocus. You might not see too much of a difference in my snow because there's not a lot of a background separation here. Now the Sony ZV1 does have a bigger brother or sister called the Sony ZV-E10. What a name. And that has very similar features, similar kind of price as the Sony ZV1, but just without the lenses, interchangeable lens body. But then you have to buy the lenses. And depending on the lenses you need, that could be more expensive. A lot more expensive. Double the price of a ZV1. And I think these retail for about $800 Australian, these lenses, on top of the $1,100 you have to pay for the body as well. But I really like this. This camera also has product showcase mode, which I really like. To be honest, I can't be bothered turning it on half the time, like I haven't right now. But what that effectively is you hold this up to the camera and it focuses on it. You pull it down, it focuses on your face. Hold this up to the camera, and then, like, just then it was doing it. But see, if I was to hold that up there, it's not going to focus on the camera because it's focused on my face. It has face priority. But what product showcase mode is, it takes it out of face priority to a certain degree, and it just focuses on whatever is in front of the camera. So if I was to cover my face, boom, like it focuses because there's no face there. But yeah, that's what it would do. Regardless of if I was even like that, it would still focus. But should I put it in product showcase mode? I feel lazy. Okay. Okay, product showcase mode. Hey, see? Even though my face is still in the frame, it's focusing on the camera. It'll just focus on whatever is kind of in front, which, especially if you're doing unboxing videos and different things, that's good. Even if I didn't have the screen, which sometimes I feel like that's a distraction for me. I'm always looking at the screen instead of the camera, and yeah, I mean, for those kind of videos, I feel like I don't need to look at the screen because I can just, even though I don't see the screen right now, I have reasonable faith that it's focusing on the camera. So this is really good. Look at that. Focus, 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 focus. I mean, how quick is that? Sony ZV1, in my opinion, is king. Whether you're vlogging, whether it's just content creation, I really like this, and it's not a lot of money. And if you do all the little add-ons, it's even better. Better. The only real downfall to this camera is because it's quite small, then things, as you could see, were a little cluttered on the camera, but when you've got it sitting on a tripod, that doesn't matter anyway. You've got your monitor, you've got your, I can see the battery on my lav and the battery on the actual wireless microphone unit, the receiver, the light, the battery, the telly light, and then just when you're out and about, right, you can take all the lavs and lights and all that off and just use the Sony ZV1 as it is. Which you'll just need to put in batteries a few times. I have a few spare batteries. But other than that, even without all the cage and all that, I think it's a really good camera. It's not going to give you as much background defocus as a full frame will or an APS-C will, with a good lens on it anyway. But is it needed? I mean, I still feel that this is sufficient enough. It has built-in ND filters and all that in the lenses. So when you're going outside, you've got an ND filter there. Again, you don't have to buy additional ND filters for your lens. It has everything. I recommend, if you're going to start YouTube or any content creation or doing little videos, even for Instagram and TikTok, I mean, this is good. I should put it back on product showcase mode. It's focusing on the hand. Anyway, regardless of what you're doing in the content creation space, whether YouTube or not, I think this is a pretty good value for money camera. The downfall, if you are into photography a bit more, then you have a max of about that 70mm kind of zoom in range. I just wanted to put my setup out there and kind of show people that I don't think you need expensive cameras. I mean, I've got them, but I don't need to film on them. I mean, this is fine. And I wanted to share my setup, what I've done with the ZV1 to make it an even better camera than it already is. I haven't seen many people really modify their ZV1s too much here on YouTube. I do know that I was watching a YouTube video the other night, and this person, I think she had like 700,000 subscribers, and she was filming just on the Sony ZV1. I mean, if she can get 700,000 subscribers just filming on the ZV1, then I don't think we need much more. In saying that, if you want interchangeable lens, then the ZV-E10 is probably good enough. I might do more of these kind of videos in like a creator series, do a bit more behind the scenes, how I film the videos, what I film them with, the cameras I use for live streaming. Even though you can use the ZV1, I don't, because it's just, I have to undo the setup from the stand and then put it on the cameras and set it up for that. It's just, bleh. I prefer set cameras for different things, to just do everything without me needing to de-set up something and set something up, and then it just takes the content creation out of you, having to set things up and take things down. That's why I have a few cameras. I have set things for things, and yeah. So anyway, thanks for watching this video, everybody. Hit that like button if you liked it, subscribe for more videos, and I'll see you in the next video.